Hey, it's Buck from Bacon Trees. Thanks for stopping by my channel. Happy May 31st, Thursday morning in Toronto. I think it's around 10:45 or something like that. I got to keep an eye on the time because I have a couple of classes to teach you later on. But I've been doing live sound videos for a few years. What I wanted to do today was put together a summary video on the 6 basic steps to getting a great sounding show every single time. So I've titled it How to Have a Great Sounding Live Event Every Time. Even in challenging environments, you can still get great sound. Some people don't follow all of these, or they're guessing at certain things. I'm trying to simplify it. I know some people might say, well, it's not that simple. It actually is. I mean, if you do it enough, it's simple, and I just want to share how I've simplified the process over the years. And that's at, I don't even know how many events I've been involved with, but it's over 4,000. I stopped counting maybe 3 years back. And I'm just because, you know, I want to, I just want to share my experience here with the live sound and how I managed to get great sound like every time. Number 1, set a good gain structure. So your gain structure is really important to get going. So if you don't have a good gain structure, like your channel strips, your master output, your amplifying stages, you're going to compromise the sound somewhere. So good gain structure simply means you're avoiding red indicators, whether they're LEDs or LCDs, it doesn't matter. Red peaks are bad. So if something's peaking red, it's a warning sign that you're near distortion or you're probably distorting, depending on the piece of gear. So avoid red peaks all the time. You know, even if you want to redline something because it's an analog piece of gear, I suggest don't even do it. There are ways to avoid it if you have good gain structure and you balance everything out. Go for strong greens. Some indicators have clean sound in the yellows, which is like right between the greens and the reds, but in most cases I don't even hit the yellows. I stay in the greens for every channel. The master sometimes might hit the yellows a little bit, but I trim it down and I turn my amps up or I balance it out, so I'm basically always getting green signals. Unity gain, don't forget, is a guideline. It is not an absolute because people never have the exact same settings when they mix. So unity is a good guideline to follow, but you're always going to basically go out of unity gain a little bit here and there, which is okay. So just keep that in mind. It's not absolute. Now, what I mean by strong greens, of course, is just make sure the signals are strong with not necessarily going to 0 dB. They don't have to. They can go -3, -6. So you don't have to take the trims all the time and boost them so you're always hitting 0. That's not correct all the time. Sometimes that works for certain instruments, but I typically avoid 0 on the individual channel strips. My master might hit 0, but the channel strips definitely don't hit 0 in, I'd say, 95% of the cases when I mix. There are exceptions, but generally I keep everything in the greens. So that's what I mean by healthy greens. Use subtractive EQ, that's next. So subtractive EQ, meaning get rid of problems. So with a 31 band EQ or a 15 band EQ, let's just say graphic EQ, you're going to have different sliders, of course, to represent frequency bands. You're going to average the 0 line. It makes no sense to cut everything below the 0 line. Like if you have your EQ set, so most sliders are below 0, that means you're getting more ripple. Depending on the EQ you have, I know Ashley EQs have less ripple, but you're getting more ripple on the output. So keep everything as close to 0 as possible and only get rid of problems. When you get rid of feedback, number 1, it's good because nothing's feeding back. And if it's loud enough at that point, you can start getting rid of other issues like frequencies that are masking good frequencies. So let's say you go, well, it doesn't really sound sparkly enough in the highs. Okay, try to get rid of some lower mids or lows because maybe they're masking the highs and you're hearing more of that, where you should take away that area, then you'll hear the highs better. So this goes all the way back to home stereos when people had a bass, middle, and treble control. If it's not trebly enough, turn up the treble. I used to do it because I didn't know, it just said highs. And I go, well, the highs are the high frequencies and it sounds cleaner or more detailed when I turn the highs up. However, if you get rid of the bass and a little bit of mids, leave the highs in the middle and turn the volume up, you're going to get the sound you want, but without having to boost anything. So I don't boost anything ever on a 31 band EQ. The most I will boost on a channel strip, when I EQ on a channel strip, is like about 3 decibels. I'll find other ways of getting the signal the way I want it, like miking techniques and stuff like that. But I'm using subtractive EQ, again, 95% of the time, but 100% of the time for a main EQ for a front of house system or a monitor system. Subtractive EQ. I'm going for natural sound after I get rid of feedback. So I want things to sound natural. I'll use my voice because I know what it sounds like. I'll use track 2 and 3 off Boku Fish by Underworld. Great, excellent techno recordings with clean sounds. I use those 2 songs, a couple of Prodigy songs I'll play, because they have a really good balance in the mix. I know what they sound like in virtually every system, and I get a good idea of what that sound system is going to sound like in that room in a natural way. I'll use, I got to pause that for a second. So that's the reality of the situation. The phone rings sometimes, and it's usually spam. I don't even know why I answer at my landline. Anyway, so pink noise, that's up to you whether you want to use pink noise to pink a room or a system. In the big leagues, people usually use pink noise. It's a good indicator, but it's not going to tell you everything. So I don't use pink noise. I prefer to use my ears, even with larger systems. So that's a whole other discussion. This is what I mean by subtractive EQ. Just get rid of problems, and then you'll hear what you want to hear. So stage volume must be reasonable. You can't have a super, super loud band and then just turn the monitors up, because loud monitors actually ruin mixes too. And you can't have the band too loud because you can't mix around them. So you got to make sure that the instruments are a reasonable level. The monitors are mixed well with the instruments. And then you've got a happy stage, and you can bring your front house up and it'll mask the stage sound and actually sound clean. Vocals first. Base your mix on vocals and mix around them. That's the #1 thing people complain about. People sing along with songs. They don't sing along with snare drums. So if your snare drum is like 4 dB lower than it should be, most people are going to think that's just the way the band sounds. But if the vocals are too low, that's going to be an issue for most people. So vocals first. Base your mix on vocals. I bring the channel faders up. Make sure the vocals are loud and clean. And then I start mixing around the vocals. So I have a video on that actually. EQ instruments on their channel strips, not with the 31 band EQ. 31 band EQ, for me, vocal based. Then individual channel strips for instruments, and then I'll correct. So I'll usually do mostly cutting, like I say. Sometimes I might do a little boost here and there, but it's mostly cutting. Subtractive EQ. Answer the 4 questions. Is it loud enough? Can everybody hear? Can everybody understand? And will it feed back? You might need a delay fill or a delay cluster, a delay speaker to fill in an area where people can't hear that well compared to the front of house. So keep these questions in mind. And basically that's it. Those are the steps to get great sound every time. Let me know what you think. Maybe we can open this up for discussion. And thanks for dropping by. Please subscribe. Have a great Thursday.